we are just about to start. We are just monitoring to see as members log in, as participants log in, so that the numbers can increase. But otherwise, good morning to all of you. You are most welcome to our webinar today on agribusiness, especially more so to our special guest, Commissioner from the Ministry of Agriculture. To our dear panelists this morning, Dr. Mike Cansime, you are most welcome. Dr. Stefan Veroni, you are most welcome. And Ms. Joanita Kamuri Bambumba, you are most welcome. And today we are privileged to have our the member from the castle that will be presenting the sync piece. Gudra, you are most welcome. Let's just give a few more minutes and we should be able to start at exactly 9 a.m. We should be able to open up the webinar. Just for now, we can wait for a few moments. As we wait for the members to log in, we could quickly look through the program, which has been shared with us. But for the participants who are joining, this webinar starts at exactly 9 a.m. and it will go up to midday. So it will start with the opening prayer. Then the moderator will give a few welcome remarks. Then we'll have welcome remarks from the member of the castle board member. And thereafter, we have a sync piece presentation or a paper to be presented about this topic. And thereafter, we'll have our discussants presenting one by one. So I can see the participants list is growing. And once I determine that we have reached a sufficient number, we'll be able to resume. But I like to remind us that when the program starts and the discussion starts, we have 4 questions that will be shared on our screens, and all participants will be requested to answer those 4 questions according to their own judgment and opinions as per the questions. So the number is keeping growing. We keep looking at it, and in a few minutes we will be able to start. Otherwise, you feel warmly welcome. This is our home this morning, being organized by CASO. And it is a series of webinars we've been having since March, since COVID-19 started. We've been sharing different programs, different topics from different sectors that have contributed greatly to the discussion going on at the national level. So our participant list is growing, and I think we are going to start. It is now 9 a.m. We want to follow the program as it is. So at this juncture, I want to once again welcome all of us and say good morning to you all. Our dear special guest this morning, Mr. Deus Mwezi, you are most welcome. Our sync piece presenter, Gudra, you are Naiga Basaza, you are most welcome. And our panelists, Dr. Cansime, you are most welcome. Dr. Stefan Veroni, you are most welcome. Ms. Joanita Bambumba, you are most welcome. We are going to have full introductions for all of you at the beginning of each session. So this is just a warm welcome so that we all know each other, we know who is in the room, but also to specifically welcome our participants who are joining us and continuously to join us. As the participants continue to join us, allow me at this juncture invite our board member, Dr. Magara James, to give us an opening prayer. Over to you, Dr. Magara.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Let's humble ourselves in prayer. Lord, we thank you so much for the very beautiful country that you've given us. Thank you, Lord, for sunshine throughout the year, for rain, at least twice a year, 2 rainy seasons, for very fertile soil, for lots of water, lots of fresh water from our lakes, our rivers, streams, and swamps. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity that we have to become an agriculture powerhouse. And this morning, as we discuss, I pray, Lord, that your spirit will rest on each one of our participants, that you will be able to draw out ideas and be able to make this webinar contribute to the furtherance of agriculture and especially agribusiness. And we ask, oh God, that you will also give us uninterrupted communication and give us insight. We pray for all who are coming, whether they're on the panel or as participants, that they will be able to receive something positive from the interactions this morning. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Magara. Once again, you are all most welcome to this webinar on agribusiness. Your moderator this morning is Dr. Lawrence Mugisha, Associate Professor at the College of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Resources and Biosecurity. And I'm glad and privileged that this morning I'm going to be moderating this session on a very, very, very important topic on agribusiness. Before we jump into the actual discussion, I'd like to share with you a few guiding points that will help us go smoothly through this presentation, through this webinar. Our dear members, panelists, and the participants, I just to draw your attention to your screens. If you are using an iPad or a laptop, it has the tabs that will help you to navigate through the screen. But the most important tab I'd like to draw attention to you, especially the participants, is the Q&A tab. The Q&A tab is your discussion area. You should be able to type all questions to the panelists and the space, and they will be watching. Every time you are typing, they will be watching and they will respond to your questions at appropriate time. So that's very, very, very important to note. And I request our panelists this morning to pay attention and keep looking at Q&A section and take note of the questions that are being directed to you. That's the very, very, very important area. Please, participants, the chat area is not available for you to use. It is only for the panelists and discussants. So the chat area is only limited to participants. I mean to the panelists. So another important area you need to take note of is that every after 30 minutes of this webinar, there will be a poll question. Kindly, it will appear on your screen, and it is in multiple questions. You will be required to quickly pick the option that fits best to you and gives you the best option you think according to the question, and then the results will be displayed thereafter, after very few seconds. So please, when the questions appear, answer as soon as possible. And that will have a set of 4 questions throughout this webinar. Importantly to note also is that this webinar is live on Facebook. For those who are not able to join us through Zoom, you can join us through the Facebook, and we are also live on Twitter. And if you want to join any of those discussions, it is a #Castle webinar and Thrive Agribusiness. You will be able to join us either through Facebook or through Twitter. So those are very, very important things to take note of as we go through, and I will be reminding you as we go along. At this juncture, therefore, allow me once again to invite one of the council members, Professor Joseph Onyu, to give us welcome remarks. Professor Joseph Onyu, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, and thank you very much, panelists and participants. My name is Professor Joseph Onyu, a member of the think tank board. On behalf of the chairman of the board and the whole Castle think tank administration, I would like in a special way to welcome you to this webinar. It is the 17th webinar since the COVID pandemic set in, since March, on the theme COVID-19, an opportunity to thrive. The Castle think tank looks at COVID as also providing opportunities, although there are challenges. And these opportunities are part of the many topics that we have discussed under different webinars. So first of all, I would like to thank you in a special way for being part of Castle think tank aspiration. And this is our 17th webinar. I would like to welcome the panelists, Dr. Gadula Naiga, Lawrence Mugisha, Stephen Birungi, Joanita, Michael Cansime, and our special guest, Muhezi Deus. I'll make a few comments. One, I think agribusiness is critically important for us in this country in many ways. First of all, it touches on our food. And two, it touches on our income. So it's related to food security, which has been an issue in this country. We also know that about 70% of Ugandans are involved in agriculture, and most of it is subsistence agriculture. And this contributes about 36% to the total employment in this country, and probably around 25% of the total GDP. So it's important to many of us. It's important to the country. I liked the prayer by Magara. He actually prayed, we have got so many attributes in this country that we should thank God for. We have a lot of rain. We have tended to depend on rain-fed agriculture. We have plenty of water from the rivers and the lakes. We should really thank God so that we use this, and it gives us the wisdom to use these resources to actually turn agriculture around so that it plays a more important role. The panelists will tell us what agribusiness is, but in my layman's understanding, I think it involves the production and then the processing, value addition, and the marketing of this product. So there are some key areas that I think the participants are waiting for the panelists to make a contribution to. We know the key challenges, including transiting from subsistence agriculture to commercial or business agriculture. Then there are marketing challenges that we are constantly facing. Value addition is very important. If we added value to our coffee and so forth, I think this country will be extremely rich. I think in all this, there is probably a question, in my view, that we need to think through, and that is the question of the land tenure systems and how to reform this so that we can truly move into business or commercial agriculture. So we welcome everybody. As a think tank, we want to generate evidence-based information that can be used to resolve many of the issues in the different sectors in this country. Our aspiration is that Castle Think Tank partners with several other partners research institutions, individuals in the ministries and so forth, so that we become part of the solution to the many challenges that we face, but which can easily be turned around and we transform this country. My appeal for others who are participating for the first time is that you can actually visit our website and you'll be able to get the recordings of the past webinars. So in a special way, without taking too much of the time, since we are all anxiously waiting for the panelists who are very, very well grounded actually in their areas and have a lot of experience, I would like once again, on behalf of Castle Think Tank, to welcome all of you to this very critically important webinar. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Participate as much as possible and give us your very best. I think one of the key questions also to me, who is an educationist, would be we've tried to teach agriculture in schools. We want to see if we can do it differently, because we have issues of attitudes of the children and so forth, because of the way it was introduced during the colonial time. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'm looking forward to a very exciting webinar. You're most welcome on behalf of Castle Think Tank and the board. Thank you. Lawrence, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Joseph Onyu, for those important remarks and also for giving us an appetizer to this wonderful discussion this morning on agribusiness. Agribusiness, which is a big component on agriculture, we know that agriculture forms the backbone of our economy, employing close to about 70% of the population and contributing to over 70% of Uganda's export earning. So agriculture is a very, very, very important sector, and the agribusiness is a major component of agriculture, as we are going to learn this morning. Agriculture provides the bulk of the raw materials for most of the industries that are predominantly involved in agribusiness. It also contributes at the national economy 23, almost 24% to the national GDP as for the financial year 2018-2019. So, and we also know very well that Uganda has been seen, or is always being described as a food basket for the region. And that remains to be seen that we are actually fulfilling that obligation to serve the region. However, having been a food basket, Uganda still continues to import several food items, including meat, fruits, vegetables, dairy, beverages, oil, foodstuffs, and confectionery, worth $600 US dollars. That is a huge amount of money that is being spent in importing food items, and yet Uganda is a country that is is rich in natural sources, is good rainfall, with good soils. So why are we still importing a lot of foodstuffs? The panelists this morning will take us through and tell us why we are still doing that. What could be most of the bottlenecks that is affecting agribusiness growth and agriculture as a whole? What do we need to do in order to mechanize and commercialize agriculture, where agribusiness is an essential component? All this will be discussed this morning. So our dear participants who have joined us so far, I just want to let you know that today we are discussing a very, very, very important component on agribusiness. And in the room, we have very, very important people who are specialized in this field of agribusiness, and they will be sharing with us. Just briefly for the participants in the room this morning, we have our special guest, the Commissioner from Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Deus Muhwezi. We have a council member who will be presenting for us a paper, Ms. Gudra Naiga Basaza. We have our dear panelists who will be discussing the same subject, Dr. Mike Cansime. we have Miss Joanita Bambumba, we have Dr. Stephen Virungi. So it's a very, very big panel. So I'd like to ensure that all of us, we partake of this important discussion this morning. Once again, I remind you that we are live on Facebook and also on Twitter for those members who are not able to continue with us on Zoom. So without taking much of the time, I'd like to now take this opportunity to invite our presenter, and I'm going to introduce her briefly. So the presenter, who is from Kasso, is Gudra Naigabasaza. She is a managing director of Goody Incubation Center. She's a social entrepreneur dedicated, where she dedicated her life for over 10 years in transforming people at the base of pyramid through her flagship creation, Village Entrepreneurship Learning Association. Through her work as a social entrepreneur, Gudra, as a leader, she has enabled setting up of 530 villas, supporting 63,720 youth agripreneurs distributed in all regions of Uganda. Gudra, she also founded a Youth for Youth program that links youth along the white meat value chain and is an advocate of agritourism as a transformational tool through sharing innovations. Gudra, she has been an instrumental in the transformation of livelihoods of over 200,000 youths through educating the university dawn, through publication of 43 manuals, 2 books, 12 songs, and 6 inventions. Gudra, she has not stopped there, but she holds very many qualifications. She has won several awards, among them including Lioness in Business Award by Upton and Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association, Best ICT Innovation, Goodies TV, 5th Challenge of Consortium Enhancing University Responsiveness to Agribusiness Development Limited Competition, win of the iGrow Accelerator Challenge, Uganda Development Bank and Resilient Africa Network, Makerere University. VV 100 Most Influential Women of the Continent. Gudra is highly sought after by several organizations as the board representative, and these include Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association Limited, Private Sector Foundation Uganda, Casita Provident Fund, DFCU Bank, Women Advisory Council, National Agricultural Research Association, Holy Family, among several other organizations. Dr. Gudra holds a postdoctorate doctorate in educational technology from George Washington University, USA. She has a PhD in ICT and educational sciences from the University of Ghent in Belgium, a master's in educational science, York University, UK, and she's a Fulbright fellow. She's married for 25 years and has 2 sons. Dear fellow panelists and participants, allow me to, in a special way, to invite Gudra to give us a presentation about agribusiness as a think paper. Thank you so much, Gudra. You are most welcome.
Thank you, our moderator, for that beautiful introduction. It is an honor for me to be part of this discussion, which is very dear to my heart. This think piece is talking about COVID-19, opportunities to thrive, agribusiness. I'm going to approach it by looking at an introduction, background, impact of COVID-19 on agribusiness, opportunities during and post-COVID-19, recommendations, and then I conclude. By way of introduction, COVID-19 has provided an opportunity for us to refocus on the basics for survival. I want us to refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which recognizes that the basic needs for any human being are psychological needs, physiological needs, and safety needs. And when I look at the other side of business, we only make sense in business when we meet needs of the customer by giving them value in terms of doing the jobs they are not able to do, being able to give them a gain, and solving the problem or pains that they have. So for anyone to engage in agribusiness, it should be able to respond to the needs of the people at the time. Broadly, agribusiness comprises of a series of activities performed from farm to fork. And as already said by a number of people who did the introductions, it is important for income, for employment, for industry, and it contributes greatly to food security and nutrition. Using Maslow's hierarchy of the basic needs, I want us to focus on 3 basic needs. If we look at food, 100% of our food is derived from agriculture. When we look at food for other people, 70% of our exports are agriculture-based. And as a country, out of the $7.7 billion of importations, $600 million is importation of food-related items. And when we think about food, agriculture, the question that arises in our mind is, who is responsible for agriculture? Research shows that 5 million families in Uganda are involved in agriculture, and these farm on 17.2 acres out of the 40 million acres of arable land. Let us look at another need, basic need, warmth. We get warmth through clothing or housing. If we look at clothing, most of the clothes we put on could be from cotton, leather, fiber, or rubber, and all these products can be grown in Uganda. Uganda as a country annually produces 185,000 bales of cotton. The global market for leather and textile products is $1 trillion. Looking at housing, we are a population of 46 million. Each year, we require at least 60,000 new houses. And each house that is being constructed provides an opportunity of at least 3 jobs. And when we are talking about housing, trees come in as a very important resource that we need for all our construction. That is still agriculture, providing materials that provides us warmth. Another basic need we could focus on is health. It's good to keep healthy by eating, by keeping warm, but also it's very important that whenever health is tampered with, we are able to treat ourselves and prevent further infection and potential dangers that could arise. But what is interesting is that what we need for our health, all of it could come from agriculture. agriculture could provide the basic raw materials. However, as a country, we import 383 million worth of medicine for humans. We cannot talk about health without talking about plants, without talking about animals. Today, world over, we are talking about One Health. As a country, we import fertilizers worth $39 million annually. We also import an assortment of, say, insecticides, fungicides, herbicides worth $82 million. And globally, the demand for medicines accounts for $1.4 trillion. Therein lies an exploited potential to feed, clothe, treat a growing population. This also points to an opportunity for import substitution that we could exploit. Again, looking at what the world needs, we have an opportunity to export and thus create employment. As we go further, it's important for us to know that COVID-19 control measures, such as the lockdown, closing of the borders, have led to unintended disruptions to the agribusiness chain, which is threatening the lives and survival of many Ugandans. When we talk about agribusiness, this is not a new concept. By way of background, we are going to focus on the structures in place that build a case for agribusiness, the national and international agenda, and challenges that agribusiness is faced with. We have our Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, whose mission is to transform subsistence farming into commercial farming. You could as well remove commercial farming and say agribusiness. Our ministry is well grounded, has a number of directorates that are specific to different aspects of agriculture. And the ministry has a number of bodies that are focused to those that the country believes are priorities, like control of trypanosomiasis, the Cotton Development Organization, Dairy Development Authority, the National Agriculture Advisory Services, the National Agriculture Research Organization, and the like. So already in place, we have structures that would help us to drive the growth of our business, of agribusiness. Again, when we look at international and national programs on agribusiness, it is very clear that there is enough support for us to promote agribusiness. As a country, we've been running a very huge project of the agricultural technology and agribusiness advisory services. This was aimed at modernizing agriculture by use of appropriate technologies. We all aspire to have at least a 7% rate of growth to attain a GDP per capita of $1,300. Our Vision 2040 is very clear. It commits us to agro-based industries to drive agriculture productivity. This is also supported by Agenda 2063, especially Goal 5, which emphasizes modernizing agriculture for increased production and productivity. When we look at the East African Community Vision 2050, it is also very clear value addition through agro-processing is a key element of this agenda. Now, zooming in, looking at the National Development Program, NDP 3, 2020-2025, agro-industrialization program is top priority for a number of reasons. We aim to increase processed exports to a tune of $4 billion US. We want to reduce imported products that can be made in this country, like cereals, vegetable fat, and oils, which right now stand at $931 million US. We want to see a reduction to at least $500 million US. We want to increase the sector growth. We commit to increase labor productivity. And we want to increase jobs in the agro-industry value chain by at least 500,000. Further, we want to reduce the percentage of households dependent on subsistence farming. And we are looking at increasing the proportion of food secure households to at least 80%. All these opportunities for agribusiness that are national priorities give us an opportunity to promote agribusiness. And some of these guide budget lines that support us to implement. The question remains, where are we? How do we fast track implementation and realization of these beautiful aspirations? As we think about that, it's important for us to focus on the challenges in agriculture and agribusiness. There are so many challenges, but for purposes of this discussion, let us focus on the 6 major challenges that have been recurrent. We have a number of people that are involved in agriculture, which is good as a source of employment. However, we find that there is a lot of time poverty. They work so hard to earn so little. Reason being that we have low productivity. If I give an example of, say, maize, at times you find our farmers very excited that they have managed to harvest 3 tons of maize in an acre. Yet out there in the world, others are harvesting 12 tons. So this low productivity per unit area is a big bottleneck in enabling agribusiness meet our obligations as a country. And after this low production, we again have poor storage infrastructure. Post-harvest loss is at about 18%. You have already produced at a low production per unit area, then you have a loss of 18% due to post-harvest handling. And we also have a challenge of low value addition. We have less than 10% of what we produce in agriculture undergoes value addition, implying that 90% of what we produce is sold as raw material. And every time you sell a raw material, you are selling bulk. You are the one who spends more on transport. You are the one who takes away the jobs to other people that will add value. And you are the one who misses on using what would be like waste to produce other products. And when our products reach the market, access to the market is complicated, given that we are not well developed in our logistics. And at times, the volumes that we have produced, the cost of delivering to the market becomes so expensive. And this ends up giving us a small profit margin. And again, considering that our value addition is low, our products at times are not competitive. And when you look at the entire farming, entire agriculture, access to financing is still a big bottleneck. So we are doing agriculture at a very high cost. When you look at the funds that are available for agriculture, the interest rate is so high that it's very difficult for someone doing agriculture to be able to pay back the loans they get. In most cases, people in agriculture end up paying using money from other sources, not necessarily from agriculture. Then once you have finished all this and say you have your money, you have your production, and now you want to sell, we know that at times export gives you a big advantage. You get a bigger profit margin. However, we also see another bottleneck: poor coordination, insufficient and inefficient institutions, a lot of bureaucracy. Today, many people do not have an idea how they can access even a regional market. It seems to be privy to very few people, but even those who try, they get frustrated along the bureaucracy. So bottlenecks of this nature make us fail to achieve our aspirations. Allow me to use a Uganda saying that we look like someone whom they say, Oyoza no yanika mutaka. We have a very good plan, we have good aspirations, but because of bottlenecks, we are not able to achieve them. And therefore, some of these beautiful aspirations remain for the books, for the papers. Let us now focus on the impact of COVID-19 on agribusiness. When COVID-19 struck, we were not sure what was going to happen. Although agriculture was declared essential, but we have seen a decline in performance, especially in the export value of about 10%. Although some individual a decline. We have also seen a shortage of inputs due to supply interruptions, especially owing to the fact that we are importing most of the inputs for agriculture. Sadly, we have also seen a reduced purchasing power of the population. And in most cases, people in agribusiness have had to cut down their prices and thus reducing the profit margin further. So what are the opportunities during and post COVID-19? There are a number of opportunities, but I want to highlight three main ones. We see a lot of motivation for us to engage in industrialization. That has always been our priority, although we did not implement it full scale. We noticed that a number of essential products were being imported. And when there was a disruption, we have got to produce them. And people who have taken center stage in this are now producing in bulk, and they're able to trade and get a decent margin. With industrialization, it spurs another important chain of value addition. We can no longer sell raw materials. It's not easy, considering the logistics, the lockdown. So here we see another opportunity for value addition technologies. And this is where our scientists, our engineers are being put to task to provide for us technologies that we can use in our cottage industries and factories. We have also seen a lot of investment in logistics business. Today, I am a farmer. Before I sell, I am paid. Orders are being made online. That was never there before. We would supply supermarkets, at times wait for 3 months. But today we have an opportunity to be paid before we supply. And this has increased our profit margin. We are able to deliver to the direct customer. We have managed to eliminate the middleman. And this increases our profit margin. So all these are opportunities that COVID-19 has brought. However, opportunities become opportunities only for those who are ready to seize them. What do we recommend going forward? Agribusiness is key. No one can deny that. However, for us to benefit from agribusiness, we need to strengthen agriculture, especially food production. To do this, we need to ensure that we have farmer groups that are linked, bulking, synchronized, and embrace processing to a certain extent. As earlier said, we are well endowed with fresh water. The levels of Lake Victoria are rising. This is an opportunity for us to tap into so that we can engage in irrigation to produce all throughout there. We are also going to strengthen agricultural production through the centralization of incubation centers, which later will motivate the establishment of cottage industries. We also have to invest in food supply chain improvement. We need to be able to trace the farmers. We need to have a place where farmer produce is picked from. Here we foresee farmer service centers. We are going to embrace online marketing and group logistics. When you look at logistics today, it consumes at least 20% of your profit margin. Yet, if we looked at group logistics, probably this would reduce and increase our profit margin as those who are involved in agribusiness. Regarding agribusiness financing, we need to have a lot of improvement here. We need to look at low-cost funding. We need to have timely and accessible funding. And here we see funding going closer to the people, the circles in our villages, the circles in our cooperatives. And then it's very important for us to do risk agriculture. Agriculture insurance has been existing, but we need to see more people taking it up. We cannot forget the woman factor when we are talking about recommendations for improving agribusiness. Women empowerment will be key, considering that 76% of the workforce in agriculture is women. And here we need to focus on ensuring that the women get the knowledge, the up-to-date knowledge on agriculture, safe from research institutions, and are able to translate it into business. We also need to see our women get financial literacy. You can no longer do business without knowing the numbers. We also need to look at our policies, research, and in particular on value addition. When we are doing research, it should be on demand. What is the bottleneck of the people involved in agribusiness at this point? And whatever we come out with should be applied. And we will continuously do action research. And once we finish this research, let us decentralize dissemination of research and policies. And also, for the good policies that we have on paper, let us see them implemented so that they drive agribusiness to greater heights. Importantly, we need to start embracing cost-benefit analysis in agriculture. Let us be able to count our losses in time. Many times farmers have donated when it's not their intention, just because they don't put numbers. They don't have an idea of the input. They can't determine the cost price so that they can put a markup to have a decent profit margin. This has got to stop. Otherwise, we are going to have very many poor farmers who will be frustrated. By way of conclusion, COVID-19 pandemic provides the opportunities for Ugandans to urgently re-examine and implement the required changes and adjustments, as well as investments in order to resolve these challenges for now and for the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Gudra. Very, very rich paper, and I hope now this sets a very good ground for the other discussants and panelists to discuss the paper. Before I invite the first panelist, allow me to recognize the presence of the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Nawangwe, is with us, and I've seen him posting some questions. So Gudra, please pay attention to Q&A section. We'll be able to answer that question at appropriate time. Once again, Gudra, thank you so much for setting the stage, for linking agribusiness and agriculture, more specifically food, warmth, and health, which brought a very, 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 very important aspect, and also recognizing the bottlenecks that is affecting agriculture, has affected agriculture, and continue to affect agriculture sector. With that foundation, rich foundation, thank you so much, and allow me at this juncture to invite our first panelist, who is going to be Dr. Mike Cansime. Allow me to, before Dr. Cansime comes in, allow me to introduce him so that the participants know exactly who Dr. Cansime is. Dr. Cansime is a born-again Christian, a veterinary doctor, a teacher, farmer, and currently executive director at the Dairy Development Authority. Dairy Development Authority is a statutory agency charged in the development and regulation of dairy sector in Uganda. Mike started his career from the Uganda Revenue Authority, where he was one of the few highly trained young men and women that transformed URA in the early 2000. While in URA, Dr. Cansime, he taught part-time at Makerere University College of Vet Medicine, and while at Makerere, he was an instrumental in the presidential initiative on science and technology project that led to the birth of Africa Institute of Strategic Animal Resources Services and Development, commonly known as AFRISA. He headed the AFRISA Secretariat from 2010 to June 2020, when he left for another new assignment at the Dairy Development Authority. While at AFRISA, Dr. Mike became a champion of transformational skills, training, and industrial value chain education that is widely credited for taking science, technology, and innovation from the ivory tower to the communities. Mike was awarded the African Food Security Challenger 2013 by the Global Knowledge Initiative of Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania State University in the USA because of his impact work on food and income security in Africa. Dr. Mike spotted his strategic leadership qualities and currently serves at the university on the University Council at Makerere University Business School, World Vision Uganda Governing Board, Global Leadership Network Governing Board, Entire School Governing Board, Makuru Institute of Technology as a board chair. He recently served on National Drug Authority Interim Board and Chatnet Farm Africa. Mike is an MBA graduate and one of the first beneficiaries of the SALT, OXID, and the History Maker programs at the Institute of National Transformation. He believes in everything begins and ends with leadership, and everyone can lead where or she is, and everybody wins if a leader gets better. So allow me, members and participants on this webinar, to welcome Dr. Mike Cansime with this vast experience and background to give us his view about the think piece that has been presented, and also share with us his own view of the agribusiness in this country. Dr. Mike Cansime, it is my honor to welcome you to give your presentation. you are most welcome.
Thank you so much, my senior colleague Lawrence and my senior colleague Gudra, for this wonderful and sought after presentation that has really synthesized the issue very well. And I am going to give you some of my thoughts on the topic, and especially hinging and basing particularly in the dairy sector, which I lead. In our presentation, which we have just had, there was a key statement, which actually Dr. Gudra started with. And this statement was about focusing on the basics for survival. Focusing on the basics for survival. If you are going to understand COVID pandemic and how it impacts our society and all arenas of life and how we can benefit from it, you need to begin to understand it scientifically from the first principles of science. What do pandemics do and what are their effects to humanity? When we go to evolution, we see the concept of natural selection. And this is where survival comes in. Such pandemics, scientifically, they are focusing at removing the genes that are undesirable in the communities and promoting the vibrant, energetic, and powerful genes thrive. And if you want to understand and take advantage of this COVID, I think this is where you have to begin from. There are some things in our systems that must die. And there are some things in our systems that must be left to thrive. And the effects of this pandemic, in my understanding, and from the perspective of the organization, this is the line we have tried to understand it. At the Dairy Development Authority, where I'm a team leader, we are also galloping to see what do we have to learn in order to make our sector better. And it is very clear that survival, and especially survival on your own, is very, very key. When we first began, the government put a lockdown when we had about 5 or 6, less than 10 cases. But now we are in thousands and many sectors are opening. We have come to a realization that it is upon each individual to try to survive and survive on your own. You go to school, you don't put on your mask. It is now becoming clearer that the survival of people depends on themselves, not as blanket interventions of government, but on their own. So organizations and agribusiness, this is a very, very key lessons that we have learned at DDA and others must learn. We have learned that when borders closed, we could not sell, we could not buy out. There was no free movement of labor in and out. So nations had to survive on their own. And there are things that URA at the DDA, which we know that we must weed out. And if we are to do them, we must do it on our own. I'm going to highlight some of our key areas in our effort to grow the sector, which is agribusiness sector. Developing the dairy sector is an agribusiness effort. And we have found out that we have to build our own capacity. Because when COVID came in, we realized that we can no longer get technical experts from Kenya, from Pakistan, from India, most especially to help us in our direct technologies. Borders were closed, but our processors needed labor to come in. In some cases, some of the technical people who had gone out could not come back. Some lines closed. So we realized that if we are going to grow the sector of the dairy in an effort of agro-industrialization, according to National Development Plan 3, we must build our own capacity in dairy technology. You very well know that we have not been able as a nation to build the capacity in dairy technology and produce our own dairy technicians. We have been relying on Kenya, on Pakistan and India, where these are taken as professionals and people have been trained and churned out. So this pandemic has really taught us that as our sector grows, we must also grow in our capacity to build, to process our milk and to repair our equipment and all that. So the government of Uganda, of course, through DDA, has now embarked on the process of revitalizing the dairy training school in Entebbe, and we shall be very soon churning out dairy technologists, churning out dairy technicians, because this has been a very hard lesson according to what we have learned in COVID. When COVID came, borders closed, our people could no longer move freely and could not sell. So we have found a very big problem of borders closing and exports not moving freely, where a trader would make a return trip to Kenya in a week. Now it takes about 3 or 4 weeks because they are tested at the border, you have to look for results. So
Dr. Cansime, cannot you? Okay, go ahead.
are you getting me now?
Dr. Cansime, we seem to, oh, yes, go ahead, please. And a few more minutes. Thank you.
Somebody had muted me. We have realized that unless we build our own internal market, then we shall have trouble if such a pandemic comes again. So the government of Uganda and the Dairy Development Authority are undertaking efforts to improve our consumption of milk. Currently, we can consume about 800 million liters of milk internally. And our consumption, our per capita consumption is still one of the lowest in the region. So we are focusing at increasing our per capita consumption by involving activities and programs.
It's 10 o'clock.
That will lead improved milk consumption, so that we can build our own market in future. If this pandemic goes on, then our farmers do not suffer with the losses and lack of market. So it is very important to note that this is a very big opportunity because our people have not been drinking milk. Currently, we have about 2.4 million children who are stunted, and we very well know that this could not have happened if they drank milk. So as we improve milk consumption internally, we shall also be solving a problem of stuntedness among our children. And we are marshalling every effort that we can get to ensure this succeeds. Actually, this meeting next week we have a very big meeting to brainstorm with the development partners on how we can improve our milk production and distribute milk in schools and give pregnant mothers and children so that they can be able to grow better. In so doing, developing our own market. We have got our own share in the challenges due to COVID. For example, because of all those problems, we have seen our processors of milk processing at reduced capacity. In some cases, some lines have closed in the processing facilities, and it has really been a challenge. And now we expect that our milk exports and milk product exports will reduce to up to $50 million from 150 to $50 million per annum. So we think unless we institute all these measures to ensure that we have our own market, such that our milk is drunk, we produce our own people to process this milk, we encourage our people to start processing. As Gudra has been telling us, it is very, very important that we increase our capacity to process this milk. So we hope that with those interventions, our milk sector will be able to absorb the shocks of such pandemics. And I believe that this pandemic has left us at a different level. We shall emerge from it very successful, very vibrant, and our sector will grow even better. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cansime, for giving us the perspective of what is happening at the Dairy Development Authority, but also generally what is happening within agriculture, especially with your experience in the teaching institution. Thank you so much. We are very, very, very grateful. Please take note of the section in Q&A for some questions that you may need to attend to. But personally, before I leave you, you talked about processing and access and consumption of milk products. Could the processing costs or investment involved in the processing of milk products, could it be a hindrance to availability of processed milk for consumption for Ugandans? Just a quick response to that, but later on you'll have more time to respond to the questions, because many children are stunting, they are not accessing this milk. Is it because of lack of access, availability, or the cost of the milk product, especially when it is processed? Over to you, Dr. Michael, quickly.
The cost of milk is actually cheaper than water. Currently, in many parts of this country, especially in the West where we produce a lot of milk, milk is now at 400, 500, 600 shillings per liter. These are 2 cups, Tampeco cups, 2 liters. But a liter of water is about 2,000 shillings. So it's not an issue of cost, but it is an issue of access. For us in the West, in some areas where, especially in the West, where we're producing a lot of milk, we have a lot of milk in the West, but we have no milk in the North and Northwest. So it has been a result of access. And you cannot take this milk, say from Uganda, and you take it to Komoko. It's a very highly perishable commodity. So it is important that we encourage value addition so that we can improve the shelf life of this milk, so that it can be transported to an area where we have plenty to an area where we have scarcity. So it is a deliberate effort of government as we go into even planning, to plan for improved production, processing of milk, so that we improve on the number of processors that we have. Currently, we have about 130 processors, categorized as small processors, medium processors, and large-scale processors. We hope we need to raise that number, because with that number, we have not been able to provide processed milk to access the market. So it is not a matter of cost of the product, but it is a cost. We can talk about the cost of the equipment to process, because milk processing equipment is very expensive actually. And that goes to what Madame Gudra was talking about, that we need adequate financing, appropriate financing, affordable financing to be able to stimulate our investors to invest in that area. And I'm very grateful and thankful that we have a facility in Uganda Development Bank where we are sending our people who want to go into processing. And we hope that in a few years, we shall be having more processors coming on board. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Cansime, thank you so much for that addition. Thank you so much once again. We are now going to receive our poll question in a few seconds. It is going to appear in your screens. Panelists, you cannot answer, but you can watch the poll question and how the results are coming in. The rest of the participants can kindly respond to the question on your screen. It will take a few seconds before it is taken out. Answer appropriate according to your choice. We will take a few seconds and we'll be able to share with you the results in a few seconds. I hope the participants are responding to the poll questions. And very soon we are going to have the feedback. We are going to stop and then have the feedback from the poll questions. Okay, the results are now back. And the question was to choose from which field of agriculture you are involved. And you can see as of results, 60% of the population are still involved in crop production. We're followed by animal husbandry, dairy production, which is also part of animal husbandry, then fisheries, then we have forestry, and some a big number of 24%, none of the above. It would be important for us to explore what these 24% are involved in. Yes, thank you so much. This one speaks to us as we need to do much more in this sector. Thank you so much. We are now going to proceed to our second panelist this morning, and allow me to invite Ms. Joanita Kamuli Bumba, the Deputy Director, Agriculture Credit Facility at Bank of Uganda. Before she comes in, let me take this opportunity to introduce her so that we know who Joanita is. Joanita, she's a highly professional and experienced central bank official with the significant leadership accomplishments, some of which include over 15 years in development finance and management of credit facilities, comprising of what we refer to as small and medium enterprises, financing, and microfinance. She has provided technical and business advisory services to entrepreneurs in East Africa under the World Bank program. She has over 6 years in leading financial institution regulation and supervision. She has over 6 years in enhancing policy coordination at the Bank of Uganda by assisting the board of directors effectively discharge the fiduciary responsibility of the monetary policy oversight in Uganda. Joanita, she's a leading stakeholder in the public engagements, especially involving coaching, mentoring, and counseling for biblical perspective. Joanita holds an MBA majoring in finance and management from Brussels. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Sciences of Makerere University, a diploma in French from the IFAD Development Institute, Brussels, a diploma in risk management in banking and finance, Stockholm, governance professional under the Governance Institute, and the certificate program in investment appraisal and management. Dear participants and fellow panelists, this is the most important. Juanita is here with us this morning, share with us her experience from the banking sector, from the credit sector. Juanita, you are most welcome to address us. Over to you, Juanita.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mugisha. And I also take opportunity to thank the Castle think tank for inviting me to be part of this very, very important topic on opportunity to thrive in agribusiness in the COVID era, even going forward. So I thank you so much for this invitation. Now, I want to talk from an implementer's point of view to try and present on what we are doing in trying to address the challenges already well elaborated in the presentation by Dr. Basaza Gudula. So what I want to share with you is the agriculture credit facility, the ACF, that we are administering at the Bank of Uganda on behalf of the government, and the various investment opportunities it presents in agribusiness. Now, the ACF was established way back in 2009. And there are some key aspects that informed an important backdrop or environment within which ACF was established. And most of them have actually been made in the presentation. And some of them actually, or all of them, include the rationale for setting up the ACF. For example, agriculture being the key pillar of the Ugandan economy, the issue of the NDP highlighting agro-industrialization, which aims at increasing commercialization and competitiveness of agriculture production and agro-processing. We've heard about how agriculture is a critical driver of economic growth and poverty alleviation in the country. We've heard about its contribution to the GDP. I don't have to repeat the statistics. We've heard about its contribution to the working population, especially in the rural areas, who are primarily engaged in agriculture activities. We've heard about agriculture representing at least 70% of the country's total foreign exchange, and its potential of being a food basket in the region. Now, in spite of all these key factors, banks and financial institutions were initially unwilling to advance credit to farmers before the ACF came into existence. Why? And yet we know this, that, like I had in the presentation, this urgent need to promote agribusiness as an enterprise to drive agro-processing and value addition. And then the issue of one of the recommendations by Dr. Basaza was the issue of enhancing financing to agribusiness. So why were the banks reluctant? So these financial institutions, they consider the agriculture sector to be highly exposed to covariant risks that include climatic changes, post-harvest losses, volatility of prices for produce, market linkages, all well elaborated in the presentation. Now, this plethora of risks suppresses the appetite for lending to the sector by financial institutions. And at the same time, these institutions were unwilling to advance credit to the agriculture sector, considering the high cost of lending that factors in the above mentioned risks and the transaction costs. Therefore, with these factors in mind, government considered to increase the productivity and commercialization of the agriculture sector by establishing the ACF almost 11 years ago in order to bridge the financing gap in lending to the agriculture sector. Now, the key objective of this scheme, the ACF, is essentially to facilitate the provision of medium and long-term financing to projects engaged in primary agriculture production, whether it is in crop husbandry, animal husbandry, you name it, and also projects engaged in agro-processing at more concessionary terms than those obtainable in financial institutions. Now, the ACF targets agricultural projects focusing on modernization, mechanization, commercialization, and value addition of raw outputs, as well as financing the grain trade. Now, the ACF has become one of the key drivers of increasing food security, contribute to poverty reduction and economic growth by bridging the financing gap in commercialized agriculture lending. Now, what are some of these eligible purposes or investment opportunities in agribusiness? Now, funds under the ACF can be accessed for the following purposes: the acquisition of agriculture machinery and post-harvest handling equipment, modern storage facilities such as silos and refrigeration systems. Funds can be accessed for installation of irrigation systems and greenhouses, agriculture inputs such as pesticides and fertilizers. Funds can be accessed for land opening and paddocking, purchase of biological assets that include banana suckers, fruit seedlings, chicks, piglets, cows, for cattle fattening and trading, goats for restocking the farm, and agro-processing facilities in the different agricultural value chains. We also provide working capital required for operating expenses, but this should not exceed 20% of the total project costs. Now, the exclusivity of the ACF structure as a loan scheming from all other loaning schemes available in the country entails the following. ACF operates as a risk-sharing refinance scheme under a public-private partnership approach with risk-sharing arrangements. The ACF partnership is between the government of Uganda and the participating financial institutions that include commercial banks, micro deposit taking institutions, and credit institutions, basically regulated and supervised by the Bank of Uganda, and the Uganda Development Bank Limited. They are partners in the ACF. Now, many of these PFIs are now on board. Like I said initially, they were unwilling, but now they're on board. They have an extended outreach countrywide, and they even reach the rural population. They know the customers on the ground. Bank of Uganda on our own, there's no way we would have managed this. Government on their own, for commercialized agricultural loan financing, I don't think they would have managed on their own. So this scheme operations are guided by what we call a memorandum of agreement signed by all the stakeholders in the partnership. Government of Uganda is represented by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, while Bank of Uganda is the scheme administrator. Under the risk-sharing arrangement, commercial banks and the UDBL, they contribute 50% of any loan financed to a farmer or agro-business enterprise. If it is 100%, they'll go ahead and give to the extend credit to the final borrower up to 100%. Then they'll seek refinance at the Bank of Uganda at 50%. So it's a 50-50. And then for any loan that goes through an MDI or credit institution, they only contribute 30%, and the 70% is contributed by the government of Uganda /BOU. Now, this releases a lot of stress on the capital base of these PFIs. So this PPP approach, in our experience, I think is a very good mechanism. Now, the concessionary terms and conditions of the ACF loans for the eligible purposes already mentioned are loan durations. They do not exceed, the loan duration does not exceed 8 years. And then maximum grace period does not exceed 3 years. Then minimum loan period, we say 6 months. This is agriculture value chain enterprise. Now the maximum interest rate is capped at 12%. 12%, which translates to about 1% per month. Currently, it's the cheapest already happening on the market. Now, the cumulative performance of this scheme as at June 30th, 2020. Cumulatively, we had received a number of loan applications amounting to 956, with cumulative loan value of 909.8 billion. However, not all of them qualify because we have to do the screening due diligence. These are government funds, taxpayers' money. So we are careful to make sure that this money is not just lost and, So the ones that qualified were about 772 to date. And the total disbursement portfolio, PFI/GOU, amounts to 520.4 billion. And the government own contribution in this is 263.9 billion. So the balance is from the PFIs. And our non-performing loan percentage stood at 2.21%. This is of the funds disbursed as refinance. What are the key achievements of the ACF? ACF is a proven distribution channel for short, medium to long-term agriculture lending. Like I said, it has extended worth 520.42 billion to 772 clients. Now, these include large aggregators with outgrowers schemes reaching approximately 10,000 micro and smallholder farmers countrywide. The ACF has enhanced farmers and agribusiness enterprises access to affordable credit facilities from the PFIs. And the ACF also has what they call a block allocation arrangement. Now, this permits PFIs to submit a one block application, not exceeding 1.5 billion. And therein that block allocation, there's a multiplicity of microloans. Each microloan is not to exceed 20 million, okay? And this, the purpose is to unlock credit to micro and small farmer borrowers. Now, with this 20 million facility in the block allocation, the borrower does not need to provide traditional collateral. The arrangement stipulates that alternative collateral arrangements are considered, such as shuttle mortgages, cash flow-based financing, and character-based loans, and among others. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we observed that a number of these small micro borrowers under the ACF block allocation arrangement actually increased, but this is strictly for agribusiness. Now, ACF has also promoted the commercialization, mechanization, and modernization of the agriculture sector. The sector is providing import substitution already, and it supports the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, Buy Uganda policy through increased Ugandan-made product ranges depicted in some sectors, such as the dairy sector, with packed milk, skimmed milk, yogurt, ghee, cheese, and then the tea sector with packed tea bags, among others. If you go to the supermarkets currently, there's a lot of import substitution. Most of the products there are they're made in Uganda and funded by the ACF. Now, one of the other achievements is that there's been a development of innovative financial products in agricultural finance and improved risk management tools by PFIs and development partners. Then the ACF has contributed in the increase of employment levels as more people are employed in commercial farms and agribusinesses. We are planning to conduct an impact assessment study funded by the World Bank and the European Union to actually establish the exact impact in terms of economic benefits. What are the exact numbers of employment, gender disaggregated data, women, how many women have access? What about the youth? So that impact assessment study will inform about the exact impact. But as it is now, there is a contribution. Then a number of development partners have come on board with guarantee packages to support financial institutions to lend in the agricultural high-risk area. Now, what is the way forward? This is my take. To effectively support the investment opportunities in agribusiness, we need to consider a holistic approach along the agricultural value chains with coordinated support mechanisms, both in the government and the private sector. Support mechanisms to support the farmer from the farm to the market. This is very critical. Credit per se is not adequate when farmers and agro-processors are not guaranteed of a market. How will they service their loans if they don't have a market? Then, farmers and agro-processors, we are encouraging them to access the Acf funds available at the concessionary terms I've already mentioned. Now, considering the existing demand and the good distribution mechanisms for medium to long-term agricultural financing, such as the Acf, they need continued government support in terms of increasing sufficient capitalization to ensure their business community and deliver to the Ugandan farmers and agribusinesses. Thank you very much.
Yes, Joanetta, thank you so much. We have been enlightened, we've been educated, we've been informed, and we've been known that there is this credit facility and the fund that their farmers can access them, different groups can access the funds. That's very, very excellent. Thank you so much, Joanetta, for sharing with that information. We encourage you that through that facility, you come out a bit more to provide information out to the public, so that we are aware of these facilities and they can be easily accessed. Thank you so much, Joanita. Please go and check on Q&A. There are several questions that have been raised that you can respond to. Our dear participants, please, once again, use Q&A section, post all your questions, and they will be adequately responded to. We are now going to receive our next poll question. Please kindly respond quickly, as it will only be taking a few seconds. Let's have the poll question. Our next poll question is, what is the greatest opportunity for agribusiness in Uganda today? Our poll question is, what is the greatest opportunity for agribusiness in Uganda today? And there are 5 different options you can respond to: rich fertile soils, useful population, conducive warm climate, multiple institutions responsible for different aspects of agribusiness in Uganda, global demand for organic foods. Kindly respond and give your appropriate response in a few seconds. Once again, the question is, what is the greatest opportunity for agribusiness in Uganda today? The poll is ongoing. Please respond, and in a few seconds we will begin to get the responses and correct the responses for all of us. The poll question will be ending soon, and we'll be sharing you with the output. Okay, here the results come. And the greatest answer, which carries 37%, says global demand for organic foods. There is an increasing demand for organic food, and most participants say that the global demand for organic food provides an opportunity for agribusiness. This is followed by the rich fertile soils Uganda has, and followed by very closely useful population of the youth, 20%. And then multiple institutions involved, and finally, conducive warm climate. Thank you so much for the poll. This really influences on what will take place with agribusiness. Thank you so much. And now we are going to invite our third panelist, Dr. Stefan Veroni. Let me officially introduce Dr. Veroni Stefan, who is the current managing director, Alphasan Uganda, which is the part of Alphasan International, which is a Dutch company that is leading manufacturer of veterinary medicines. Specifically, they are specialists in production of injectable solutions and suspensions. The factory was commissioned by His Excellency of Uganda on the 1st of November 2018, and Dr. Veroni is the Chief Executive Officer for Farm Support Limited, a pharmaceutical distribution company that was also founded in 2004. He is also Executive Director for Common Development Initiative, an NGO founded by Wageningen University in Netherlands to foster economic and food security in Africa, and it links farmers to market in addition to providing skills. He's the current Pan-African chairman of Africa Agribusiness Academy, a platform of over 500 SMEs in 6 African countries: Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Malawi, and Ethiopia. He's also a founding member and the chairman emeritus of Netherlands Uganda Trade and Investment Platform, an organization that fosters SMA collaboration between Uganda and Netherlands. Stefan has got 20 years of experience in business in the pharmaceutical sector. He's a veterinarian and holds a master's degree in business administration and a bachelor's degree of veterinary medicine, both from Makerere University. Allow me, fellow panelists and participants, to welcome Dr. Stefan Veroni with his vast experience in agribusiness, to share with us his experience, discuss the paper that was presented. Over to you, Dr. Stefan Veroni.
Thank you, Professor Lawrence. Nice to see you after a long time. I'm very happy to be considered worth of attending this webinar. New thinking has to drive the development in Africa, because we cannot do things as usual. The new normal has to be extraordinary. I apologize for the small scratch on my face, but I hope it doesn't affect the palatability of what I want to share with you. I thank Dr. Gudula, who is an esteemed lady in the private sector as well, for the fantastic presentation. In the 10 minutes that I have, I just want to share with you three rhetorical questions. I am almost hitting 50 years of age, so I'm not one of the young ones. But those of my age and above will remember that when we were going to school, our fathers, our parents used to sell one cow like this, one cow or one bull, and take all the children, and in my case, we were 11 in the family, and all of us would be taken to school using that one bull. So primary production of one bull was able to take care of the needs of 11 children going to school on different levels. My father and mother also used to do cotton, and you'd find that they would sell kilos. I was too young then, I don't remember how many kilos they would sell, and we would all go to school. Now it appears that this is no longer possible. Primary production is no longer able to take care of the needs, is not able to lift, as Dr. Goodla said, the primary needs of the people using the Maslow's laws of hierarchical needs. It therefore makes us wonder, what are we going to do? Yet, on the contrary, most of our people are engaged in subsistence farming. They are engaged in primary production. What are we going to do? My second question, rhetorical question, is we are championing increased production and productivity. But come to think of it, is it possible that we are going to do this when we increase production and yet we notice that this is being sometimes spurred by value addition from elsewhere? I'll give you an example. We have almost 11. We have now almost 14 million cattle in Uganda, and Dr. Cansime said it very well. We are producing a lot of milk, I think 2.5 billion liters. But most of the drugs, most of the inputs are coming from outside. Some of them sometimes not up to standard. And is that therefore something to be proud of? And the rhetorical question, which is number 3, is, now that we had this shock of a lockdown occasioned by COVID-19, what if, by God forbid, it was not possible to bring in anything, be it containers, be it equipment, because assuming this virus was able to cling on even the containers and vehicles and all these things, for us to shield ourselves, we had to say, please complete stand. It means, and I think Dr. Cansime said, hinted on it, it would therefore mean automatically that those countries which are more self-reliant would have a better chance of survival. This is the question we are grappling with. And I think this is why Castle is saying, what can agribusiness do to make Uganda have a better chance with its citizens survive? It is not because we are looking at money in our pockets. Yes, we want the money in our pockets. That is a given. But agribusiness is a chance, since we have considerable comparative and competitive advantage, to give us the chance to survive as a country. And this is why I would like to beseech all those listening and all of my fellow panelists, leveraging on the beautiful presentation by Dr. Gudula, that as a country, agribusiness is an opportunity for us to harness all these competences we have, the good fertile soils. Madam Babumba from the Bank of Uganda mentioned agricultural credit facility. I am, by the way, a beneficiary. This beautiful factory in Namamve, Alphasan, Uganda, benefited from the agricultural credit facility. And I am hoping it will be one of the success stories which makes us self-reliant in veterinary medicines and human medicines, because we have set up a facility which can do both. So, in a way, to surmise all these sentiments, agribusiness, as we have all been told, we have fantastic reports from World Bank, MasterCard Foundation, our own Minister of Agriculture. Agribusiness in Africa, in just a few years, by 2030, is going to be worth $1 trillion as contribution of GDP, as money circulating in Africa attributable to agribusiness, is going to be $1 trillion. And now this is a massive headache for Uganda and for Africa, that as we champion the needs of our people, the hierarchy of needs, food, clothing, Medicine, we have already just been told that food is not just food alone. I saw on TV news that there's a presidential initiative to get certain components from matoke under, is it preside, to have matoke where you have phenolics that are helping wool. For example, when you're giving our sheep in Cavalry, you can harvest this wool and extract vitamin D. These are all fantastic opportunities occasioned by COVID-19. So to get back to the theme, COVID-19 is waking us up. There is an opportunity to thrive. And agribusiness, as categorized, we have primary production. I've just started with the rhetorical question, is no longer enough. So we have to get our people, as many people, out of primary production into value addition. We have to get people into agro-processing. They are still in agriculture, all right, but they are moving away from the hoe, tilling the land. And maybe we have more sophistication of tilling the land. There are new methods of tilling the land, not necessarily that you use the whole mechanization, micro mechanization, all those principles are there. We get people into retail. I don't remember which panelist mentioned that assuming we had a lockdown, people to get access to milk in Koboko, I think it's still Dr. Cansime, milk would be perishable. So how can we get our people involved in retailing these products? It means therefore packaging, processing, yes, but again packaging into appropriate packages for those people far off from the areas of production. It's going to be a revolution. Many jobs will be created. We are looking at export of these products. Again, we do productivity in primary production. We do agro-processing, that's value addition. We aggregate, that means the retailers and wholesalers. And then, the other aspects of inputs. I've just talked about veterinary medicines, which we are producing. And then we have the value system, the standards, NBS, National Drug Authority, all those players to have exports so that we bring in the dollars. And that is how Uganda is going to broaden, not just the tax base. Come to think of it, Sub-Saharan Africa having $1 trillion, assuming you just have 1% tax or in the process across the levels. We are talking about how much? $10 billion as tax revenue. If you have 10%, you're talking about $100 billion, not even $100 billion. So we can easily liberate ourselves through agribusiness, and we make sure that our people get the jobs they need. We get the tax in the coffers so that we do the services we need for our people. And that is how Uganda is going to banish this curse of hand to mouth, because with subsistence you are working just for the stomach, because when you till you harvest only 3 tons, as Dr. Gudula said, yet other people are producing 4 times that. So it means, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I propose to you that all of us who are engaged in agribusiness must inch higher. If you are at primary production, make sure that if you are producing tomatoes, don't have them all lost just at the primary level. Add value so that they can get to the market quicker and safer. Make sure that if you are, for example, involved in just going to a restaurant to drink a cup of milk tea, yes, you are contributing to the agribusiness, but please, maybe volunteer to be a transporter of milk so that this milk gets to the market faster. Those who are manufacturing equipment, to have Dr. Kansime's milk from Uganda reach Koboko faster in a cold vehicle. These things should be made available. So in conclusion, as my time is up, I would like to say that all of us as players in the agribusiness and the different professionals, we have to look at COVID as an opportunity where all the professionals just come to think of it. Agriculturists make sure there is less post-harvest losses, make sure there are better seeds which are quicker maturing, maybe more resistant to maybe to drought. If you are talking about matoke, you select, those of you in research, you select for matoke which will produce beta phenolics that can be harvested to treat COVID. Those of you who are in veterinary doctors like me, please make sure the animals, people are not losing their animals by making sure the animals survive and the national herd grows maybe from 14 million to 20 million. This is possible. The doctors, the engineers, make sure that all the equipment we need to process is available. So I would just like to say this is an opportunity for us. COVID has woken us up, and all of us out there, please wake up, because Uganda can do it. We are considered one of the people potentially endowed by nature. Let's go out there and exploit the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Stefan Veroni, for that excellent presentation, and more importantly, sharing us your experience in agribusiness. You are a living example. You have also utilized the credit facility at the Bank of Uganda, and we are glad to hear your success in utilizing the facility. Thank you so much. Now let's receive our next poll question. And dear participants, please keep using the Q&A section to post your questions. Now, our next question is: what is your opinion in one of the what, in your opinion, is one of the greatest challenges faced by the agribusiness sector in Uganda? Is it poor storage infrastructure, limited access to financing and agricultural inputs, limited avenues for value addition, poor coordination and inefficient institutions for planning, poor management of disease epidemics? Please respond and give your appropriate response to that question. Once again, I repeat the question: what in your opinion is one of the greatest challenges faced by the agribusiness sector in Uganda? Poor storage infrastructure, limited access to financing and agriculture inputs, limited avenues for value addition, poor coordination and efficient institution, poor management of disease epidemics. The poll is running for the next few seconds, and then we start getting the responses. As we get responses, panelists, please remember to go to Q&A section and look at all those beautiful questions that have been posted there. And also to participants, there are some responses that have been given to the questions. We are closing on the poll question and share with you the outcome. Well, the outcome is quite very clear that the poor coordination and inefficient institutions for planning is the greatest impediment, is the greatest challenge with 43%, followed with limited access to financing and agricultural input, then limited avenues for value addition, poor storage infrastructure comes next, and then there were actually no response to poor management of disease epidemics. It was not being seen as a challenge. So thank you so much. That's very, very, very great. We'll be following up with those responses in improving our think piece paper. Thank you so much. Now comes a very, very important time where we are going to invite our special guest, but also introduce our special guest for this webinar this morning. Allow me once again to invite and introduce our special guest. And our special guest this morning is Mr. Deus Muhwezi. Mr. Deus Muhwezi is a commissioner of Agricultural Investments and Enterprise Development at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. where he has served for over 4 years. He is also a director and a founder member of a development integrated consultants, a consultancy firm based in Rukunjiri town. I like that. Before his promotion to the commissioner, he served as assistant commissioner, agribusiness and farm management at the ministry. He also served as an officer in charge of tax collection, chief collector, interesting, and the district revenue officer, Rukunjiri at Uganda Revenue Authority. He has also served as a lecturer at Makerere University, as both assistant lecturer and later on as a lecturer of economics in the economics departments at Makerere University. Mr. Deus has also served in various leadership positions, including member of permanent steering committee on Ministry of Education and Sports, business, technical, vocational training, member of National Go Implementation Technical Committee, member of the Agriculture Science Technical Committee of Uganda National Council of Science and Technology, member of PMA Plan for Modernization of Agriculture, Agro-Processing Subcommittee, member of the Presidential Investors Roundtable, steering committee member of the Commerce Agriculture Marketing Promotion and Regional Integration Project, member of the Agribusiness Advisory Board, Faculty of Agriculture, Makerere University, board member of the Oil Palm Uganda Limited, and as a farmer, government representative and acting director plan for modernization of agriculture. He has carried out several research in agribusiness, notably study on the food security status in Uganda, constraints affecting the agro industry in Uganda, to mention but a few. He has also published several papers, including a proposal on growth potential in small scale manufacturing enterprises in Kampala, food security contribution to Uganda's national development, the growth and development of Mbarara Old Market and its influence in surrounding area, to mention a few. Deus holds an MA in economics, economic policy and planning, and a bachelor's in economics and rural economy, all from Makerere University, a diploma in tax administration and a certificate in management, both from Uganda Management Institute. Allow me, dear panelists and the participants, to, in a special way, to welcome our special guest with all these experiences, both in revenue collection, as a researcher, as a leader, as a public servant. Mr. Deus Mwezi, you are warmly welcome to talk to us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I want to take this opportunity and in fact to say that I'm very humbled to have been invited as the chief guest at this discussion of a very, very important topic in the development path agenda of Uganda. First of all, I want to thank the panelists, and especially for the wonderful paper that was presented as a precursor for this discussion. I must say that I find this paper well focused and providing the most important points that can be, if well addressed, can cause a change in the development agenda of agriculture in this country. And Mr. Moderator and fellow panelists, I will take the opportunity to go through some of the points that were raised by Kudra and other panelists, which I find very pertinent. But before I do that, I want to make a few comments. The first comment I want to make is that I want to use this opportunity, now that it is available, to congratulate all the farmers of Uganda and those value chain actors who have contributed immensely, especially during this COVID period, to make sure that the Ugandan agriculture has remained resilient and able to feed and sustain Ugandans. I think this, I must mention it. And if you notice from the discussions of the panelists, they are all part of this. Direct Development Authority, they have been at this. Bank of Uganda, you've heard of the Agricultural Credit Facility, they have been at the heart and the center of financing. So I'm using this opportunity, Mr. Moderator, first of all, to congratulate the farmers of Uganda and the value chain actors for sustaining this economy and ensuring food security for our country and the region as a whole. Secondly, I want to thank the panelists and especially Gudra for the good paper that was presented, and even for bringing out one characteristic that almost, if you analyze all the needs of humanity as articulated by Maslow, all of them almost can be hosted by agriculture. And therefore, this gives us the measures that if we are able to do the necessary actions and to do the necessary guidance for agriculture, we will be able to harness almost all we need in this country and as Uganda to survive. So with those remarks, I want to use this opportunity to make a few comments. First of all, on what Dr. Gudra presented, and also the other panelists. I cannot emphasize anymore when Gudra mentions that the opportunity for agriculture and for this country to survive during the COVID and post-COVID lies in agriculture. And I'm happy that she laid the background, which shows that the necessary infrastructure is almost in place. That what matters most now is to ignite it and to do the necessary coordination so that we can move to the desired levels of where we want to go. Especially if I may cite a few examples she gave, where we want to target exports to the level, for example, of $4 billion annually. How we want to do import substitution, promote exports, and also graduate our farmers, the subsistence farmers, the 8% subsistence farmers, so that we graduate them from subsistence to commercial. I think these are very good points which we should build on, both at policy level and operational level, to make sure that we not only champion, but we cause an agricultural revolution in this country. And given that Uganda is an agrarian economy, if we move agriculture, then that means we are moving the whole economy, since agriculture is the engine of development in this country. And therefore, Mr. Moderator, fellow panelists, and those who are following us, I want to take a few minutes to address myself to some of the challenges, then the opportunities, and the way forward, as was well highlighted in the paper, a good paper that was presented by Gudra. The issue of low productivity. If you look at the National Development Plan 3, and also you look at the agricultural sector strategic plan, but also recently, His Excellency the President, from the highest policy level, he issued a paper, a guiding paper on the vulnerable versus the real economy. And Mr. Moderator, I see that this paper, you have knowledge about it, and most of the panelists, because I see it as one of the reference materials. So at policy perspective, most of these things have been defined. For example, the low productivity, and she cited an example, for example, where maize, for example, or an acre on average, you can find that the harvest, you realize 3 metric tons, whereas compared to the other countries, developed countries in agriculture, when they are able to realize up to 12 metric tons per acre. This is very interesting, and it is not only for this enterprise, but for a majority of these other enterprises, cutting across crops, livestock, fish, and other agricultural value chains. Therefore, as a ministry, and also as government, also at the sector with stakeholders, if you look at the National Development Plan, the Agricultural Sector Strategic Plan, and all the other policy documents, you'll find that ranked number 1 is how can we move agricultural production, how can we increase productivity from the current low levels to the highest levels. And this is where you see, when I come to going way forward, I will highlight some of the key strategic areas which we are riding on to make sure that we address some of these issues, ranging from activities on the farm, research, value addition, and up to access to the market. So low productivity is a very big problem. If I may cite a few examples, for example, you would recall that we have had some few industries established in the various agricultural value chains, and they are not sustainable because the raw material to feed into those is not enough. For example, if you look at recently the Bombo meat factory, which we established in Bombo with the partnership with the Egyptians, you find that on average, for example, monthly, rather daily, you need 500 days of cattle to feed into that factory. But you find that we are not able to raise that kind of animals. So what is it that we are doing going forward to make sure that we have sustainable volumes and increased production and productivity? And these are some of the areas I will take some little time to share with you. The other one, for example, is the post-harvest management, and the good brought it out very well. Almost all the panelists brought it out very well. It's a very huge challenge. And when you put the questions on the screen for our followers to respond, it is also one of the critical challenges that they mentioned. If you look at Goodwell's paper, she's quoting 18% post-harvest losses on average, and you know much of the quality is compromised on the farm. And even this 18% is even the average. If you look at some categories of value chains, for example, fruits and vegetables, you find that, or even the grains, you find that post-harvest losses go almost even up to 35%, which means, colleagues and those following us, that tackling the issue of post-harvest losses alone, even without increasing production, you would be able to significantly gain value of what is produced. So this is one of the areas that government is prioritizing under NDP 3, under the Agricultural Sector Strategic Plan, and to make sure that we reduce post-harvest losses through variation and agro-processing. Some come in, please. So that is one of the areas.
Yes, our commissioner, is it possible?
Continue.
Yes, our commissioner, is it possible to adjust your microphone? We are not hearing you well. It would be, we are missing important information you are communicating to us. A little bit of your microphone. We are getting a lot of echo. Thank you so much. If you can maybe bring the microphone close to your mouth, maybe it would help.
Okay. Now, could you? Now, I'm trying to improve on the mic. I'm wondering now whether you hear me now. You can hear me now?
Yes, now we are. Yes, it has improved very greatly. Go ahead. Thank you so much. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, it has improved. Yeah, it has improved now. So what I was trying to bring to the members is that the government is serious, and the sector and the ministry in particular addressing the issue of low production and productivity, post-harvest management, as was put in the paper by Goodra. And this is being addressed in a number of ways, which I will take time to talk about when I come to going the way forward. But I wanted to appreciate that Goodra brought out very well these issues, and that these issues are also already captured in the government strategic planning frameworks. That is the National Development Plan, the Agricultural Sector Strategic Plan, and even at highest level, His Excellency the President has issued a guiding paper on the vulnerable versus the real economy, for which I see you are most conversant with. So these are some of the issues, and we are trying to make sure that we address them. And when you look at all our policy instruments and documents, you find that these are some of the key areas along the value chains, these gaps that we are trying to address. And we are addressing them premised on the big opportunities which we see, and especially during this COVID period. We see that there is renewed demand for food globally and even internally. And then we also, this COVID has also taught us that relying on external markets for food is not sustainable. And therefore, in these policy documents, you will see that the issue of export promotion and import substitution are emerging clearer and trying to shape the direction of thinking and implementation within the government frameworks, especially the agricultural sector. And I want to share with you a few examples of how, as a ministry or as government, we are positioning ourselves to tap on the opportunities that the Goodra and other panelists brought up in their presentations. And I want to start with strengthening food production. First of all, this has to do with the increasing agricultural production and productivity. And this COVID, we have seen that we need to massively increase food production through increasing agricultural production and productivity. And one of the key areas in this area which we are looking at is using the nucleus farmer model approach. The nucleus farmer model approach. This approach is envisaged to address the entire value chain, and therefore taking the holistic approach, as one of the panelists, I think from Bank of Uganda, mentioned. So the nucleus farmer model, we are looking at it as offering solutions to almost all our value chain factors. And what we are planning, and in fact we are beginning to pilot it, based, for example, on the success story of the Karangara model. We want to get the big farmers or the processors, and then we concentrate our effort on those, so that you support, for example, a processor, a big farmer, an industrialist, and then you find that this person has got a hinterland of so many small-scale farmers, and these small-scale farmers, if they are well organized into associations and groups, so that they can act as a supply to the nucleus farmer or to the processor, so that the processor is the off-taker, and then these other many small-scale farmers have got the ready market, they have got a source of inputs, they have got a source of extension. So as you can see in this nucleus farmer model, we are trying to work with the private sector. And what we are planning in the near future, we are planning to get the lead farmers, the lead processors, and those even who have money out there in the private sector who are investing in construction, in what are not looking at this hanging fruit of agriculture. We are planning to bring all of them on board. In fact, we are planning we have already started with the breeders. We are looking at breeders, for example, for the small ruminants like goats, the breeders in animal, so that they can do fattening, support other small scale farmers. So the nucleus farmer model, in our opinion and planning, we think that this will be one of our solutions to address value chain constraints, especially of the small scale farmers. And we are already embarking on this, and there are already success stories along the various enterprise value chains. Colleagues, the other issue I wanted to share with you, and which has also come up in the submissions of the different panelists, is the farmer registration and organizing the farmers. As you are aware, the marketplace now, conditions in the marketplace are very stringent. For example, recently we had a threat for the ban of our fruits and vegetables in the European Union. It's no longer business as usual. Now, the issue of traceability, aflatoxins, has become very paramount to the extent that the market system wants to trace a product right from the table up to the farm. And therefore, this requires that we must register all the farmers across the enterprises, organize the farmers, train these farmers, and strengthen the extension system. And this COVID even has shown us that we have got to go digital. We have got to go digital and try to make the e-agriculture. So the issue of registration of farmers and making sure that the production complies to standards and quality is one of the areas which we are largely emphasizing now. And our efforts and those of our stakeholders, the value chain actors, are beginning to give fruit. I wanted also to comment and spend some little time on the issue of value addition. We can no longer, as a ministry or as a sector, concentrate on production and productivity without looking at the market. In fact, now the orientation is that the starting point is the marketplace. What is the market situation looking like locally, regionally, globally, say for a particular enterprise? And therefore, what are the actions required? And we try to work backwards up to research to make sure, as Gudra put in the paper, that research is demand driven. If the product is the one which is demanded in the market, how should research address production issues, pests, diseases, varieties, to make sure that it fits into what is required in the market? So the issue of value addition and making sure that our farmers do the right thing on the farm because most of you would appreciate that much of post-harvest losses are compromised. Actually, about 60%, you find the values compromised on the farm. Our farmers drying things on the ground, products on the ground, picking, harvesting when the crops, the products are not yet ready and mature. All that you find that quality is compromised on the farm. So we are strengthening certification and quality assurance to make sure that standards are adhered to, so that we raise the required products of the required standard to be going on the market. And going forward from that level, that we strengthen post-harvest management and value addition. And there are a number of initiatives in value addition. First of all, at policy level, this one I don't want to debate it. You know it, the NDP3 is all premised on agro-industrialization, and from the recent policy pronouncements, you are well aware of the import substitution initiatives. So this we are working very much in the area of agro-processing and value addition. There is no doubt, it is not debatable of why this is a priority. For example, maize, recently we had a glut when we were able to produce over 5 million metric tons of maize, 2.5 billion liters of milk. So without adding value to all these products, then we are not doing much. So these are some of the areas, and if you look at our policy documents, you'll find that these are some of the areas that we are giving huge opportunity. And fellow panelists and those following us, the issue of agricultural financing has come all through. Bank of Uganda mentioned clearly how most of these farmers are not bankable, and how most banks don't have appropriate financial products for agriculture, how it is high risk to lend to agriculture, and therefore, how does government come to bridge the gap? A number of initiatives and others have been mentioned here in this discussion. You've had a very good presentation and informative presentation from Bank of Uganda about the agriculture credit facility, for which, for us as Ministry of Agriculture and the agricultural sector, we are a major end user. In fact, we have recommended a number of our agricultural enterprises in crops, in livestock, in fish, to access this agricultural credit facility. And this agricultural credit facility has also been instrumental in promoting agro-processing and marketing, especially for access and acquisition of agro-processing equipment, and also marketing and other farm infrastructure, including machinery, tractors, irrigation equipment. This credit facility has helped a lot. And now we are also moving to strengthening lower level farmer access to credit. And this is, for example, the microfinance support center and other targeted support that we have been extending under our NADS. You know, NADS is our strategic intervention arm of the agricultural sector for some of the strategic actions of government. For example, we have been providing inputs, critical farm inputs. We have been providing equipment like milk coolers, some mills. So you can see that strategically, we have been trying to move on the issue of agricultural financing. But I still want to mention that there is still a huge gap in terms of agricultural financing. And as one of the measures, it has been mentioned here, you are aware that the government put more capitalization in Uganda Development Bank and Microfinance Support Center. So we hope And we are glad that our farmers are already trying to access these credit institutions so that they can get concessional leverage finance to enable them move up. I want to talk about something about the youth. The issue of the youth and the women in agricultural value chains has almost come across in almost all the presentations and the presented. I'm also already working with the GUDRA because we are also keen which underwent through normal government approval processes. So we are working with good.
Our commissioner, we are losing you a little bit, and maybe you can give your final.
With support from FAO, its involvement in agricultural value chains, and we have started on initial activities to implement it, including identifying youth champions and incubation centers, products, and trying to make sure that
our commissioner, we are losing you. Dear fellow panelists and participants, our special guest has temporarily gone off, but he had shared with us the most important aspects of his presentation. We are very, very, very glad, and we thank him. Now we are going to open the discussion to the general public and request the panelists to respond to various questions. Before we do that, I'd like in a special way to recognize the presence of Victoria Sech Teleko with us, the Vice Chair, Private Sector Foundation in Uganda. She's here present with us on the webinar. We also, with us, we have Samuel Andera, from MasterCard Foundation. You know, MasterCard Foundation has changed the strategy and investing heavily in agriculture. So we are glad to have Samuel. Samuel is not directly on Zoom, he's participating from Facebook. We are glad to have you, Sam, on this panel. We initially had introduced the Vice Chancellor Makerere University, Professor Nawangwe. He was around with us. I think he's still with us. So this is very, very good. Thank you so much, and all dear participants for your participation. Please continue posting your questions on Q&A section. And now we are going to provide an opportunity to respond to some of the questions. I'm very glad that our panelists have been very proactive. They have responded in writing to most of the questions that have been asked and presented. We are just going to give a few additional clarifications and more information. And in order to do that, we are going to start with our think piece presenter, Ms. Gudra Naiga Basaza, to quickly respond to a few things. And in your response, I request you to address the issues to do with is commercial farming still viable in Uganda, given the current population growth, together with the land fragmentation, along with the land tenure, which has crippled some of the issues to do with land. But as you also do that, please address the issue of networking of farmers. One of the questions on the Q&A was how can we get farmers to network in the various value chains. Gudra, you are most welcome. Just about 2 minutes. You can respond to some other questions that you took note of in the Q&A section. Gudra.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be part of this discussion. There is a lot of learning that has gone on. One of the questions that came in from Red M, it was about establishing a one-stop center for agriculture information. I think this is key, and that is something different people can take on and can even be taken on as a business. But I believe the Minister of Agriculture should be in a better place provide for us that one-stop center where we can get information, the way we do now for maybe for investment. You asked a question about commercial farming. I think we have no other choice apart from going for commercial farming. And in the circumstances that we have land fragmentation, that is where farmer groups come in. If we are different small farmers having small pieces of land, we are able to have a big chunk of land that we are using for farming. And therefore, we can meet the conditions of commercial farming, especially in terms of bulk production. But also the other important thing that is coming up is synchronization. I am into the business of white meat, and our incubation center handles white meat. Today, we have a market to supply 3,000 kilos of pork every day. There is no way we can do that as one farm alone. But thank God we have a network of youth, and we have synchronized the youth. We know there is somebody going to supply on Monday, there's a village going to supply on Tuesday. So we can supply all through just because we are synchronized. So commercial farming will only thrive when we are in groups and these groups are synchronized. Then once this is done, we need to make sure we standardize. The person who is buying our product should be buying the same products regardless of which farm it is coming from. And what the commissioner talked about, the issue of registering farmers, tracing farmers, is going to be inevitable, because we should be able to know that all our farmers are following the same procedure. So this is the time for commercial farming. It is the right time, and the conditions are in place for us to be able to do that. And once we do that, we are going to distribute risks. Why would one farm handle the risk of providing 3,000 kilos of pork? It means we have so many farmers that are carrying this risk, investing in this particular venture. So this is the right time for us to do that. The other thing that came out that is very, very important is about regular meetings of this kind. Today, in these 3 hours, we are getting a lot of information that we have been looking for to unlock some of the challenges we have been having. What if we had this on a regular basis and somebody knows that every end of month, we have this opportunity to tap in, and then we can even send our questions and say, this is what I'm looking for. Somebody sent a question, what is the procedure for exporting? Probably next time we are going to invite Export Promotion Board to take us through the procedure of exporting. Now we have a good idea of how to access ACF, under what conditions. But there are those questions we have nobody to ask. And some of us never attend so many of these meetings, dissemination platforms, so we never get to know. So I think this is a very good opportunity for all of us. Thank you, Kaso, for leading the way as always, to provide a platform where farmers can come together to learn how they can upscale whatever they are doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gudra, for that response. She has ably responded to most of the questions, including on the Q&A section. We are going to have the next panelist, but before the next panelist comes in, His Excellency, the President of Uganda, on 7th of September 2020, he gave a speech focused on Uganda's agro-based sector unstoppable. That was the title. And in his speech, he said Uganda is unstoppable in terms of agriculture and agro-based industrial production development, as long as the country has patriots. I re-emphasize, as long as the country has patriots in charge of the sector. Now, let me call upon Dr. Mike Cansime, I believe, who is one of the patriots, to briefly respond to some of the questions that were raised in the Q&A, but more specifically address the issue of lack of mass of the country. It is so abundant, whereas we can process and try to transport milk to those areas, the cost at that point would be very high. Is there a way we can increase milk production in those other areas To you, Dr. Michael Cansime.
Thank you so much, Professor Lawrence. As we talked, many questions kept coming, and one of them that is very key is milk prices. Wherever I go, this is a question I meet. Milk prices have continued to be very, very low. When you go to the farms, you find farm gate prices ranging from 400 to maybe 1,000 shillings, whereas in the market, the price of the processed milk is higher. I must say that prices continue to be as a result of demand and supply. When there are still few processors or demand for raw milk, the prices for raw milk will continue to be very, very low. But there is a silver lining as we continue to see and to receive many investors in raw milk processing, this situation will change. Another issue was an area of malnutrition. There's a question about malnutrition in the areas of plenty. The indicators still show that Western Uganda, which has more milk, there is more stuntedness in that area. I must say that this is a very serious issue. You cannot live near the lake and wash your face with dew. It is very true, indicators show that. And we have found out that milk in Western Uganda, many parts of Western Uganda, is a cash commodity. Many people look for their income through that milk. So what they do, they sell all the milk and leave none at home for consumption. But sensitization is going on, and we continue to sensitize them that don't sell all milk. Reserve a percentage for home use. This is a combined effort that we must do with all other agencies to ensure that people consume milk. And another thing is that we must be able to help households to diversify, to get other sources of income, so that they don't only see income from milk as sell all of it, but also see income from other crops or other activities. Another question was accessing milk to deficient areas. It's very true. We are endowed differently as a nation, whereas some areas have more water, more grass, more pastures. Some areas are a bit drier, and in most cases, deficient of milk. But as I had earlier said, that we can have this milk taken to areas where there is a deficiency only if shelf life can be increased. So we think that as we continue to attract investments and investors, both local and foreign investors into processing, we shall have a time when we shall have milk distributed throughout in plenty, etc. There was a question still on, we still have imports of milk products, whereas we are talking about self-sufficiency in milk. This is very serious. I must say that people who consume milk products have preferences. Whereas you may want a yogurt that is not fortified, which many people produce here, there are some customers who want a fortified yogurt, a fortified product. So we are working with our manufacturers to ensure that they differentiate their products even more, to make sure that some of these products that are not locally available are produced here, so that we don't have to import some of those, what I may call rare products or products not produced here. There was a question of stuntedness. We are self-sufficiency in milk production, but our children continue to be stunted. Fellow members here watching, fellow panelists and those in attendance, you very well know that when a child has not taken milk from 0 years to say 5 years, that child will be stunted. From 0 meaning that even a woman pregnant must take milk. So there are some efforts, people are saying, let's give milk to school-going children. My thinking is, By the time somebody is going to school, maybe at 6 or 7 years, if malnutrition has occurred, stuntedness has already occurred. So it is important that we educate our mothers, our children who are below 2 years to be fed properly. So this is a combined effort. We now have a meeting to see how we can reduce, instead of giving milk only, advocating for giving milk to school-going children, we move it down to give it to mothers and babies before they even reach school-going age. It is very important to note that the future of the dairy sector in Uganda is so good, considering the strategies the government is putting in, and especially things that we have learned out of COVID. The sector will be better, it will be much more vibrant, it will be more competitive, and it may be one of the biggest employer of Ugandans in a few years to come. Is there anything I have not addressed, Mr. Moderator?
You will still have another round as we close up. So if there is something missing, you'll still do that when you are giving your final words. Thank you so much, Mike. We are going to listen to the next panelist. And as I invite the next panelist, there was very critical issues to do with financing. Joanita, you ably presented about the credit facility at the Bank of Uganda. But in the questions that have been registered under the Q&A section, it appears many people do not understand how this facility is working. It appears there is need for more information. It also appeared as if there is a conniving that the banking sector, instead of promoting the facility, they promote their own bank facilities. How do you address some of those concerns and challenges from the participants? Joanita, you are most welcome to address some of the questions that were raised, including what I've just mentioned. Thank you so much, Joanita.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mugisha. Yes, I've seen quite a number of questions in the Q&A, and I tried to answer most of them. However, the question you just raised, basically on the, why are banks shielding the farmers from the Acf funds? Now, I can answer it in this mode. One, we have to appreciate the high risk entailed in agriculture lending. And we know that these participating financial institutions, they're in business. They're in business of credit lending, albeit at a higher interest rate and shorter loan durations. But at the Acf, in the partnership, they're obligated to on-lend at the concessionary terms and conditions. I explained about the maximum interest rate of 12% or 1% per month, as opposed to their 20% when they on-lend their own agricultural products. So in the partnership, in the memorandum of agreement signed between the various partners, they are aware of what we expect of them. It is a mutual arrangement, a mutual partnership. The government, the Bank of Uganda, reckon that we need their participation. They have the extended outreach in, countrywide. They know the customers. We, Bank of Uganda, we don't know them. Minister of Finance doesn't know them. The customers in the rural areas, they know them. So we needed to have this private-public partnership. And so far, so good. It's performing well. However, with some of these issues that come up, but we try to address these issues, and we always get back to them. and shape them back in line, okay? And that is why we have carried out aggressive marketing and awareness programs to inform the public, to inform the farmers and the agro businesses, enterprises about the availability of the SCF and how the SCF loans can be accessed. Ordinarily, the procedure is the borrower has to submit application to their banker. The application has to go through the bank. And like I said, the bank will undertake its due diligence process to ascertain the eligibility of the project, the viability of the project, okay, the capacity of this project to be able to service back the loan facility. It is still a commercial loan, but at concessionary terms. So the PFI will undertake the due diligence, bearing in mind their credit policies. Now, once this application is approved by the PFI, then the bank will go ahead and finance up to 100%. And then the bank will submit application to Bank of Uganda for refinance, reimbursement in the proportions I mentioned earlier. 50% if the application has gone through a commercial bank of Uganda Development Bank, and 70% refinance for an application that has gone through a micro deposit taking institution or a credit institution. So we are giving information to the farmers. We are empowering them. We are creating awareness so that this farmer, when they approach their bankers for an agribusiness loan, they're informed. They're not ignorant, because information is power. They need to be informed. They need to be given the information so that they can make informed decisions, even with their bankers. Bankers may play some monkey games, and even with your children, you can give them rules and guidelines at home, but they'll still get around these issues. So we try to make sure that the farmers are not taken for granted. They're informed, they're aware. And currently, we have seen that banks actually have increased in participation. Now we have about 21 PFIs. They're now more or less risk averse, what I explained in the beginning. And they're now more actively involved in the SCF funding, even with the block allocation. Even with the block allocation that I mentioned about the multiplicity of borrowers in that block allocation. A single borrower can access 20 million and below, 20 million Uganda shillings and below. But this 20 million Uganda shillings and below does not require traditional collateral. It can be alternative collateral arrangements. I talked about the shuttle mortgages. I talked about the cash flow basis financing, the character-based financing, so on and so forth. So that is how we have been engaging in aggressive marketing and awareness programs, sensitizing farmers about the availability of this funding. However, the COVID pandemic has interrupted our programs, given the SOP's requirements and social distancing and so forth and so on. So we have actually had to shelve these publicity programs. And our plan now is to continue engaging in virtual publicity. Now the options we're remaining with is engaging the media. For the upcountry, rural, we're talking about radio programs. So we have that program in place during this COVID to see that farmers are still aware of the availability of this program. Now, I've seen something about how does one access, who's eligible. I talked about it in my presentation. However, I urge the participants, the public, potential farmers and enterprises, agribusiness. You can actually access this information, download the SCF brochure on the BOU website, or if you do agriculture credit facility at bou.or.ug, you put in your information requirement that you're looking for, and any of our team members at the SCF will access it and avail you the information. because these brochures, they have information on how to access the ACF via your bankers. They have in the list of all the financial institutions that are participating currently at the ACF. They have in the eligible purposes, eligible projects that can be financed, for agribusiness. We are talking about all projects in animal husbandry, including dairy. We have financed so many dairy enterprises. We have financed aquaculture, fish farming, piggeries, you name it, under the animal husbandry. Then we also finance all agricultural value chains in crop husbandry, you name it, apart from forestry. Why? Because forestry, we already have a National Forestry Association, and forestry is catered for in that area. So this one is for all other crop husbandry, save the forestry. And then the brochures also entail the concessionary terms and conditions I mentioned about, the loan durations that do not exceed 8 years. Ordinarily, banks are going to give you an agricultural facility at shorter loan durations, because they're deposit taking. So with the ACF, you're looking at longer loan durations for agriculture enterprises and agribusiness. You're looking at the aspect of grace period, not exceeding three years. Most banks won't give you grace period, but we give you grace period factoring in the
gestation. Where, Joanita?
And then lastly, Mr. Moderator,
yes,
I'd like to thank the special guest, Mr. Muhwezi. Mr. Muhwezi recognized the ACF role, the role ACF has played in financing agribusiness in various agricultural value chains in Uganda. Thank you very much.
Joanita, thank you so much for those quick responses. We are very, very privileged and grateful. Just before I call in the next panelist, allow me to recognize the presence of Dr. Gerard Chalo from Covet Development Authority, who has joined this webinar through the Facebook. Is the Technology Development Manager, and they have been following us very critically. This is again a reminder that we have we are live on Facebook and also on Twitter. Our next panelist to give us, to respond to some of the questions is Dr. Stefan Veroni. Stefan Veroni, you just have like 2 minutes to respond to some of the questions, but I like you to also, as you respond, address this question of training. The question of training has come up strongly through many presenters and also through participants. What needs to be done to train the current and the future generation in agriculture, including agribusiness? What needs to change? There is an attitude problem. Dr. Veroni, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, moderator. What needs to change is mindset, yes, but I think the presenter, Dr. Godula, also mentioned something fundamental about mentorship. There is a tendency in Africa. I've been to a few African countries, as I said, in my role as chairman of Africa Agribusiness Academy. I've been to these countries. And once an SME, a company makes it, usually companies, when they are struggling, they are looking for cheap source of mangoes, cheap source of oranges. Once they reach the level of middle and large companies, they tend to forget their sourcing channels. And when a company is growing, whether it is sourcing or selling to smallholders, there should be an element of inclusion. I think that's the word we normally use. Inclusive agribusiness is very key. So that when you are learning, somebody talked about financial literacy. When you're learning as a company, teaching your staff about financial literacy, you are roping in those smallholders who give you the milk. I'm sure when you're talking about standards, you're also teaching those farmers how to handle post-harvest of milk, whether be it soya, be it maize. So what has to change is that there is no way we can manage training as projects. We should incorporate it as a mode of business for those who are making it or those who have made it, so that those who benefit from or with the business are part of the value system of learning standards, learning skills, and it will make it even cheaper. As somebody said, the cost of milk will not be an issue, because the cost of the farm gate, the cost of production of the liter of milk will be cheaper, because you don't have to do much more to make sure you deliver a good product. Do I make sense, sir, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Veroni, that addressed. You can summarize any other points that you have not communicated. But
all I wanted to say
now, I'm going to invite a poll question, our final poll question. Dr. Veroni, it's okay, we have heard from you. Just wait for a few more minutes, we'll be calling you back. But for now, we have our poll question on rapid improvement. And the question is, what one thing can be done to rapidly improve agribusiness in Uganda? Is it mobilizing and organizing farmers into farming groups? Is it setting up an online ICT platform for which, through which produce can be marketed? Increasing access to financing for women, increasing research and value addition. Dear participants, please quickly give your appropriate option, and they will be sharing. It will be here, the poll question will be here for a few seconds, so please respond as soon as possible. The question is, what one thing can be done to rapidly improve agribusiness in Uganda? Is it through mobilizing and organizing farmers into farming groups, setting up an online ICT platform through which produce can be marketed, increasing access to financing for women, or increasing research and value addition? Thank you so much. We will be glad to see your response in a few seconds. As we wait for the responses, allow me to recognize Dr. Miriam Sebunya from Freight Forwarders and also Trademark East Africa. She's also a member of Private Sector Foundation Uganda. They have joined us, they have been listening, and we can influence what is going to happen in the agribusiness together. Let's now end the poll question and get the responses. Well, it has come out very strongly that 50% of the participants said we need to increase research and value addition. Today we have not talked so much about research and value addition. We'll talk more about it, but it has come out very strongly. Next is to mobilize farmers and organize farmers into farming groups, followed by setting up an online ICT platform, and then finally accessing financing for women. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All these views have been captured and will be used to improve our think piece paper that will be shared once again, and it will be available on our Castle website if you need that information. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call our final person to respond to some questions, who is our special guest. And before he comes on, and he will, when he comes in, he will respond to a few questions, but also give his final remarks, concluding remarks. Before he comes in, Mr. Deus, you talked about policy. And there has been a question that there are so many good policies in Uganda, but the biggest problem is implementation. What is the Ministry of Agriculture going to do to ensure that it is not just policies on paper, but there is an actual implementation plan? You talked of registering farmers. What is the process? Has it started, or what is the mechanism of registering farmers? We know farmers were organized under corporations, cooperatives. Cooperatives were disbanded. I know there is a process of revitalizing cooperatives, but what is being done? Our special guest, please kindly respond to some of those questions and others that you may have noted, and then you give your concluding remarks. We are just having only a few minutes to the end of our webinar, so 1 to 2 minutes is okay. You are most welcome, Mr. Ben Mwezi.
Please deal with your mic.
Yes, Ben Mwezi, quickly.
Yeah, quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, the issue of policy versus policy implementation. We are just trying to address this in a way of enhanced coordination. Coordination in the sense that we want now to work more with the private sector and the value chain actors. That's why I started by emphasizing the nucleus farmer model, so that now, other than sitting at the office planning and doing these policies, we want to make sure that now there is a shift. Policy formulation up to implementation is more involving, so that we have the private sector and the other actors in the value chain, so that we work together. That's why I said we want, for example, to call all the breeders, all the partners, all the marketers, so that we plan with them and then we implement with them. So improved coordination across the sector, the value chain, we deliver to Ugandans. Then size that we can no longer do without knowing who the farmers are and organizing them. And what we are doing is that we are starting, first of all, your coffee farmers. We want to do it commodity-based, enterprise by enterprise. You know that we have already started with coffee farmers, so that we know all the coffee farmers within their categories, small, medium, large. We are doing it already with the dairy, and under the ministry, we have got what we call the agriculture cluster development project, where we are already piloting registration of farmers in the 34 districts of Uganda. So we think that we are going to upscale this one and take it to a level where the farmers are registered and working with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to make sure that we organize these farmers into viable farmer groups, but also graduate them into cooperatives. And we hope that this one will enhance our organization over increase production and productivity in agriculture. And this we are combining it with inputs. They are registered. Then we are able even to tackle the issue of fake inputs, the issue of inappropriate inputs, which has been a very big problem. Is that as a sector, we are trying to join us. The different government departments and agencies, National Planning Authority, at the lead, make sure that now the planning is program-based. So we think that now we are coming together, and our coming together, including the academia and what you are doing at the university and other tertiary institutions, we hope that all this combined effort with the proper coordination and policy framework in place, we should be able to draw agriculture to the next level.
Thank you so much, Ben. That is very wonderful to hear. That's the very, very good news. Dear panelists and our special guest, we are coming to the end of the webinar this morning. Just in a few seconds, I would request each of the panelists, just in a second, to say the final word. And I'm going to start with our think-piece presenter, Gudra Naiga. Just one word as a concluding remark. Gudra?
Thank you. Agriculture is a profession we can no longer guess. We cannot do it alone, and each one of us has a role to play, and we need to do it with the market in mind. Let us avoid starving in the granary.
Okay, thank you so much, Gudra. That's very wonderful. Dr. Cansime, your final word.
My final word is that agriculture is not a social enterprise. It is just a development activity that can enable us to create wealth and take us from one level to another level. And I interest as many people as possible to engage in agribusiness. And here at Dairy Development Authority, that's our sole agenda, to ensure that we improve people doing business in dairy sector, in all the value chains, to make our sector competitive. Agriculture is a clear pathway out of poverty. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, 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 Dr. Cansime. Dr. Virunji, your final take.
Yeah, thank you. Agriculture, and in this case, agribusiness, is a well-trodden path to success. We keep singing about Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, comparative advantage. I think it is time to walk the talk, as we say, but knowing that if we harness what we have, millions will be lifted out of poverty. Thank you.
Well said, well said. Ms. Joanita, your final take.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mugisha. What I would like to tell the public out there, government has made available this agriculture credit facility for you. It is available for you to finance your agribusinesses, your primary agriculture production. The funding is available. We are ready to serve you. Please come and access this money. It is your money, public taxpayers' money. Come for the money. Thank you.
Joanita, thank you so much. We are coming, and our special guest today and part of this afternoon, our dear panelists, our dear viewers and participants, we want to say we are very, very, very glad to have been here with you. And as a moderator, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much. As part of concluding, allow me to invite one of the council members, board members, to come and give us the closing remarks and a closing prayer for our webinar this morning and part of this afternoon. It has been a pleasure being your moderator, and I remain yours, Dr. Lawrence Mugisha. Thank you so much, and Professor Joseph Ounyu, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. I want in a very special way on behalf of CASTLE to say thank you to all the panelists and all the participants and our moderator. In a special way, I want to recognize the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, Dr. Victoria Sekitoreko, and many other dignitaries that have been in our presence. It shows the importance which they attach to this webinar. I think it's very good. The conversation has begun, and so we shall continue with the conversation. And we appeal to the panelists when called upon to return and discuss so many other things. So thank you very much, everybody, for giving your time. Let's humble ourselves and we pray. Oh Lord, our Father, we thank you for this webinar. We thank you for this country. We bless this country before you. We thank you for the abundance of the resources. Kindly give us the energy, the wisdom, and all that is required to put these resources into use for the development of this country. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen, and thank you, and wish you a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.